Hello and welcome back to my studio. Well, we've got an interesting problem to solve in this video. One of my students sent me a photograph of a scene in Namibia. You can have a look at that picture, and what she's done is she's actually overexposed it a bit more to create this really bright looking landscape. As she said, in this scene it always looks like the landscape is completely washed out. Can I produce a painting using this type of reference, or in fact painting the scene out in life itself? Although I think with this overexposure that Julia's created with the photograph itself, it's a lot more intense than you would see if you were actually standing there. I do emphasize light and dark contrast, a good strong dark mass shape to emphasize a strong light effect. Could be big shadow and glancing light coming through, or a sunset, sunrise. You're going to get the best effects because light and dark are essential to communicate the strength of light and also the warm and cool. So now we've got a situation where the landscape is entirely washed out. It's what we call a high key painting, where the key being the value will be in the lights, sort of middle value to light, and we're leaving out all of those shadow family values. How is that going to influence the painting? Well, substantially. And it's not that simple to create a high key painting, or at least as intense as this one. But we're going to have a go at it, and I'm going to share 5 major tips you need to follow if you're going to create a high key painting. Hopefully not quite as intense as this one, but you're going to find some helpful tips out of this video, and I'm going to share the tips as well in a PDF with you. I'm going to put this reference and this video in my free course as well, where you can have a turn at painting some of my most popular YouTube video scenes. Right, let's dive into this now and go through this process and see if something emerges at the end that we can at least say, no, that's not too bad. So let's have a quick look at the value scale. This is the light values that we're going to be working from, mostly lighter than middle, in sort of in this range. And this is the shadow side of the Mansell value scale. We won't be using those. Now the colors, all oils, starting with titanium white, deep yellow, lemon yellow, and we'll work a lot with these: ultramarine, cerulean, alizarin, red light, yellow ochre, and burnt sienna. Now tip 1 is start with a warm tone. Get rid of that cold white. Get a warm tone in, very light toned underpainting. Something warm, like I said, soft yellow or peach even, which helps to enhance that sunlight feel. And also it does influence the entire painting. It can add warmth to the lighter colors and help to unify the scene. Just how much of it's going to come through remains to be seen, of course. You don't know how the painting's going to progress, but it gets you off to a good start. So I've used a little bit of zest at medium just to soften this first bit up. And now I'm going to wipe it down with tissue, get rid of the wet surface. With acrylics, you can let it dry down, of course, but this is oil, so you can see how it stains the gesso very nicely. Now, keeping the values compressed is a very important thing. You can see we're going to be working in this light range, and I'm just going to mix up a range of colors, pre-mix some colors to help me make a start. A range of warm sort of peach colors to yellows, pinks, and slightly grayed down pinks as well, alizarin, crimson, and white. A lot of colors are being desaturated with white, but don't let white dominate. It must still be a color and must still make you think that it's a warm color. So with the compressed values, we're working in that light value range, of course. And I'll compare some of those colors and just hold them up to those value scale numbers, and you can see that they are fairly similar. So it's middle to high values for most of the painting, and there'll be slightly darker values in the deep shadows for some of the bushes, etc., or rocks maybe. Whatever you find in this type of scene that is an upright shape, there's going to be some shadow to it, but even that shadow is going to be influenced by all the light bouncing around. So now we'll get into the sky. This is simply the block-in stage. I'm not putting shadows in the mountains as yet. We want to get a sky, and in the photograph the sky is of course very washed out, but still some warmth to it. So I'm going to start off with the white, lemon yellow, maybe put some ochre in there, and using these short sort of broken color brush strokes. So I'm not getting a perfectly flat surface here. We bring a little bit more yellow-white into it, in creating that sort of broken color effect. All right, into the middle distance, we're going to use warm and cool color temperature brush strokes. So it's cooler at the back. We'll warm up as we get to the front. But by adding a little bit of variety, a touch of yellow makes a color warm. So that's cool to warm. That'll make the foreground rise up to us and get us a sense of depth and atmosphere. But you can see these little warmer strokes. Add a little touch of alizarin and white and you get a cooler value, but it's a cooler color temperature, I should say. Look at that, warmer, cooler. These are subtle color temperature shifts within the entire light mass shape of this landscape. These little color temperature shifts are caused in real life by light bouncing around, etc. Here we bring in the cool complementary and neutral grays. Slight touches of desaturated green or blue, violet, slightly purple shapes in the deeper shadows. So they're complements between violets and yellows and the sort of grayish greens against the pinks. Once again, bringing in that idea of bouncing one color off another. Not just value contrast, because here value contrasts are relatively subtle, aren't they? We're working mostly in the light values, middle to lights. So we got to emphasize color temperature changes, like this bit of violet coming in here, bouncing off the yellow colors. Bit more color in the foreground, and those contrasts a little more accentuated. Going into the distance, things become a little less colorful, where the blues come into it because of the atmosphere, the depth of atmosphere. Adding a little bit of the shadows now into the mountains, but you'll see the shadows are still relatively subtle. Just cooling those down with a little touch of cerulean blue or ultramarine, and not making the edges too definite, all right? Keep edges soft. Yes, there will be some edges, of course, particularly in the foreground, as you can see, but they are not hard, dark against light. It's more of a middle value against a light value. In real life, these scenes are full of light bouncing off particles in the sky and etc. So now we're getting into second layers, and we're going to build up layers of broken color. Broken color is a very important Impressionist concept, and we're going to keep that Impressionist feel and avoid solid, flat colors, right? It's not a poster. So instead we're using these broken color techniques, small strokes and dabs of varied color within larger shapes. Okay, so this entire background or distant area is one shape, but I'm varying the color notes, adding a little slightly warmer, slightly cooler, showing the brush stroke. Here manipulating the edges, as you can see, and also cutting in to just try to make the shape a little more interesting, or just a little more unified with the scene. Now these are brighter, there's a little bit more white with the yellow, so we're getting that sense of a reflection, which is all part of the sort of desert landscape, blinding light. That's the big idea. Soften that edge. Coming forward now, so a little warmer, and using a variety of brush strokes here, diagonal strokes with a lot more paint on the brush, bit more texture, and you can see it just makes a very light value area a bit more interesting. The diagonal strokes help to attract the eye into the painting as well. Light, good strong strokes of color, and we'll put that against a warmer color and just build it up. Look at that little bit of a neutral violet. Very subtle, but against those light yellows, it creates texture and interest. Just making these shadows a little more atmospheric, a bit more luminous, with a touch more alizarin. So progressing nicely, nice and juicy oil paint, getting it nice and thick in the foreground. Brush is going in all directions to emphasize the broken color effect. Light hits the brushstroke texture as well, so your own light is actually helping. So I'm adding a little bit of a variety of shapes, a bit of grass, suggestion of stones and things like that, but nothing too obvious. So let's take a final look at the painting. I hope the high key desert landscape has come through in this one, and try it for yourself. Well, there it is. I can't say that this is my favorite type of subject to paint, and you probably get that from me as well, because I do love to get a good dark, cool mash shape and put that against the lights and really get that counter change going on. But if you're faced with this type of scene, you can certainly build on this. I would like to add more layers to this painting. Let it perhaps settle down a bit over a few days if I'm painting with oils, and then really get that color temperature contrast going. Maybe put in a few slightly more exciting colors, maybe some light blues and pinks, and then strong yellows as well, and get that sort of real impressionist thing going on. Now, there's a South African master painter from long ago called Jacobus Pierneef, and he painted landscapes that have this sort of high key thing going on, and they really are very evocative of this type of landscape. A lot of light yellows, pinks, and ochre colors, slightly stylized, bit more expressive, but it's got that feeling. And I've seen these landscapes in real life, and it's amazing how you can see exactly what the artist was trying to communicate. So there are ways to take this type of high key scene and create some fantastic work with it. So there you go. Have a look at painting a high key painting next time you see one of these type of scenes. And don't forget, I'm going to share that in the description where you can find the reference and have a go with the painting yourself. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video coming soon. Until then, cheers for now.